All right, guys, another week, another Modified Rides podcast. We're back. Today I have an avid listener, someone that's on every week, but is also tied to the automotive community and has a pretty cool truck. So this week I have Dave Weakley. What's going on, Dave?
Hey, good afternoon. Thanks, Brandon, for having me. I appreciate it.
And those on YouTube see he's rocking the Modified Rides podcast hat. So if y'all want one, I just got a whole batch of them. Hit me up. I've got those. I've got shirts. So a little commercial plug here at the beginning. So those that aren't on YouTube and watching this, ones that are just listening to it, you can still hit me up. I still have hats. I still have shirts. So I guess let's get in. So who is Dave Weakley?
Well, I guess for those that don't know me, I truly am a mini trucker. All right, I am a car guy through and through. Been in the automotive scene most of my adult life, as far as that goes. Currently, I'm doing detail supplies on the side at car shows nowadays, as well as still work for Valvoline Motor Oil Company. Get the opportunity to do that.
So we'll touch on everything that you do in the industry in that aspect. Of course, we'll get back to the truck I mentioned, but I always start out asking what got you into the automotive world. Like, what was that trigger for you?
What was that trigger for me? That's a great question. And honestly, it started years before I even could drive. My dad was a car guy. He was a mechanic by trade. Learned to work on cars with him throughout the course of the growing up. And before I could even drive, he had a 63 Chevrolet Biscayne that he got the opportunity to restore. And I kind of got to help him on that before I could even start driving myself. So
did he take you out to car shows and stuff, or is he just more of a weekend warrior with it?
He did take that to car shows once he got it finished, but more or less he was truly just a weekend warrior kind of guy with that for the most part until he got it finished, and then he would take it out to cruise night or something like that.
Were you like my daughter growing up, where she'd always have car guys over hanging out at the house working on stuff as you were growing up?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, as far as that goes, we lived in a mobile home neighborhood, and so my dad worked on a lot of small engines. He was a mechanic at a university, actually here locally, for a number of years. Actually retired from there.
Where
at? Eastern Kentucky University.
Okay.
And he basically ran the maintenance facility for all their vehicles and equipment, and he become very well known that he could easily fix a small engine, right? Whether it be a weed eater, a lawnmower, what have you. So people would come lean upon him to work on that kind of stuff for them pretty quickly and easily.
So you don't have to worry about when you have a yard maintenance issue. You just say, "Dad, come fix this."
Well, unfortunately, no, not anymore. My dad passed away a little over 10 years ago from kidney cancer. But fortunately for me, he bestowed upon me a lot of knowledge over the years. And so I can usually make my way through it and do my own repairs for the most part.
If I can't get the starter fluid or carb cleaner to make it start, I just go buy another one. I'm not.
I'll dive in a little deeper than that for sure. So
I'll replace a plug and spray the starter fluid. And if it don't start up in the spring, it's time to go do another one. So
right, yeah. No, for me, I get a little bit more involved in that, and obviously with my day to day work, I'm more involved with automobiles on a day-to-day basis. So I've got a pretty good working knowledge of an engine.
So was your first vehicle something cool, or was it?
Well, it actually was an 85 S10.
Okay.
And it was a used pickup truck that my parents helped me purchase. I did make all the payments, but they helped me get a loan to buy the truck, and was able to drive that through high school. And then actually after high school, I bought a brand new S10, and I still own that one today. That's the same truck.
Do you remember what that first S10 cost you?
It was $1,200.
You probably couldn't get that for 12,000 now.
No, probably not. No, probably not. No.
Watching some of these prices of these vehicles that were cool like that when we were kids have gone through the roof. My Mecum guy I do the photos for, I'm like, y'all are selling this for what? I'm like, that's crazy.
Now, I never got the opportunity to have anything really cool done to the truck for the most part, other than a stereo system and lowered it a little bit. But my dad actually purchased a set of rally wheels for it for it at the time. And of course, when you're young and dumb, you learned how to do a burnout pretty quickly, and I smoked the rear tires off that truck pretty quick. So
And he probably made you buy the new tires for it.
exactly, absolutely, yeah, 100%, and buy the clutch when I finally destroyed the clutch. So uh, doing burnouts, but yeah.
I, I think rallies were probably the staple of a lot of that era of GM mini trucks. Like you had to have rallies on everything.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. I mean, they were just real common, obviously, right?
Rallies or IROCs.
That rallies or IROCs, or for the older guys, I guess they probably ran some Traeger SSs, right? So
Convo Pros or
yeah, so
we're talking old school stuff. The younger people are gonna be like, what? What is that? So you said you bought your next one. So your second vehicle was the S10 you still have.
absolutely, yeah. I bought it brand new in April of '98. I graduated high school back in '97, and so I was working and in the auto parts industry, and was
Really?
about
What were
to.
you doing then?
I was actually working for Napa Auto Parts
Okay.
locally, delivering, selling, doing all the store operations as far as that goes, for Napa, and then got the opportunity to make a big change and move to Jacksonville, Florida, to go to work for some family. They own a patio screen enclosure and vinyl siding business in Jacksonville, or did own that, and they asked me to come down and come to work for them, and so basically I bought a new truck, and 2 weeks later I packed what little bit of belongings I owned and drove to Jacksonville, Florida, and developed a little bit of a job there and life down there for several years.
So did you drive that new S10 stock for a while?
I did. I think I drove it for probably the first 8 or 10 months stock before I actually done something to it and got some wheels, obviously, for it. That was kind of my first purchase, and then a 2-3 drop on it. Was kind of the first things to go. Obviously, when you first get one, you're going to tint the windows. You got to
Especially living in Florida.
exactly. That's kind of the first thing you do anyway, right? And then of course, adding a stereo system to it, and over the years, it's had many of both wheels and stereo systems. So,
And it's a little more than a 2-3 drop now. So
exactly, a little bit more, yeah, a little bit more than a two.
what year did they quit making the S10?
They actually quit making the actual S10 in '03, and then the Blazer was '04, I believe, and even the crew cab S10, the 4-wheel drive crew cab, was '04.
Now the 89 was that was the
It was a square
first
body.
year of the round body, was it?
No. The '85 that I originally had was a square body.
Yeah.
Yeah, was a square body S10, and it was '82 to '86, I believe, had the same dash, which had round gauges in the cluster, and then '86 or '7 and to '93 had the big squared off gauge cluster in the dash.
But when they changed the bodies, what year did they change the body style?
'94.
That's right, because I remember everybody was doing the I guess the front end conversion for the later round bodies onto the older round bodies.
Yes. And then you also could see some guys that would take the Blazer front end and put on the 94 to 97s, because the Blazers had the composite headlights versus the sealed beam square glass headlights.
So working in the Napa world, I guess you learn more about what parts worked with what and all that. I guess that probably pushed you even further into the love for the automotive world.
Absolutely, 100%. And I mean, so much so that I even continued on to work for Napa when I lived in Jacksonville as a part-time employee, just to make extra money and basically to get the parts discount, so that when I wanted something new for my own vehicle, I could get the parts discount, right? So,
Yeah.
Whether it was routine maintenance or even some add-on stuff, like I put an original bed rug kit in the truck years ago, and a tonneau cover on it. That was just a roll-up style tonneau cover originally. So yeah.
So I guess you worked with your family there for a little while, and then is that when you left there, is that when you stepped into the role you have, or not the role, but the company you have now?
Actually, when I moved back from Jacksonville, Florida, I went to work for EKU for quite a while, and then got the offer to come back to work for Napa. And I went back to work for Napa for a little while until the store owner decided he was ready to retire and ready to sell out. And when he did, I worked for the new owner for just a short period of time, and then went into the dealership world, worked for a Hyundai dealer as a parts department manager before moving on to getting an opportunity to come to work for Valvoline. A close friend of mine in town was working for Valvoline at the time, and he was taking on a new position, and he thought that I would be a good fit for their technical services team, and invited me to get an interview, and so I did, and I've not looked back.
What'd you start out with Valvoline?
So I was on their what's now known as product support team. We'd field customer related questions about products, whether they wanted to make sure that they got the right oil for their car, right transmission fluid, whether they had a problem with the product, and we could help answer questions in that regard. And we also got the opportunity to work with other brands that we sold, not just lubricants. We also at that time had Eagle One detailing products, which is a retail brand, as well as Carbright professional detailing products. We own both of those. And so I got the opportunity to work with a lot of that side of the business as well. And having the love affair for cars and going to car shows and stuff like that, even while I was in Florida, that just kind of helped. I just was a natural fit with that. The folks on that side of the business quickly adapted to me and let me test products that come in new to the market that were coming in new, and I handled claims for both sides of the business, both the lubricant side as well as the appearance chemicals as well.
Is that what they're classified as? There is appearance chemicals.
Yeah, that's what mostly detailing products are considered as appearance chemicals. Yeah, so Valvoline ended up selling that portion of their business off to a company several years ago, and I stayed on with the Valvoline side, obviously, and glad that I did. I got the opportunity a couple short years later after that subsided to go to work on our training team and get the opportunity to travel the country and go see stores all over, whether it be auto care centers, big box retailers, or even dealerships, and help train both technicians on how to safely use our products and services on customers' vehicles without damaging a vehicle or hurting themselves, as well as working with the sales side of the business to help the sellers present and sell the products and services to customers.
Now, how long have you been with Valvoline?
I've been with Valvoline for 18 years now.
So have you seen a change with you going into the service centers and that kind of stuff? Have you seen a change in those employees in the last 18 years? I feel a lot of the kids, quote unquote kids that are there now, don't really understand automotive stuff. They don't like it. It's just a job for them, so they don't care what happens.
You're exactly right. And the majority of the time, yes, I see that a lot. And I can see the attention span when I'm trying to teach a class of those who are truly interested in it versus those that are just there to check the box that they went to that training. And I know that the next time I show up to that location in 3 or 6 months, they may or may not be there, right? So you learn that pretty quickly. And yes, it really took a bad turn during COVID, right?
Yeah.
A lot of shops were, bombarded because customers were keeping their vehicles longer, things like that, and then the help was just not there because they were, oh, I got COVID, I need 2 weeks off, and it was just one of those things. And so it's still struggling to fully recover. It has gotten better, but it is still struggling.
I've got friends that's got companies and they're like, have an employee go, well, I've got COVID. And they're like, and you're coming to work tomorrow. Like that's it.
Right.
5 days off. And they're like, no, you're coming to work tomorrow. Like, unless you're dying, you're coming to work tomorrow.
Yeah. Fortunately for me, I got the opportunity to still travel for the most part throughout COVID and work with customers, but I never got sick to my knowledge. I mean, I never, if I was sick, I wasn't deathly ill so that I needed to have myself tested to know that I was positive if that were the case. But yeah, I mean, it has changed the world obviously and changed that demographic. But I am seeing a handful of select technicians today that do express some interest, and those are the ones that I like to focus on and focus my time with, so that I can see them grow in their career.
Well, I know like our parents' age, because you're probably somewhat close to my age. I'm sure. What year did you graduate?
I graduated in 97. I'll be
Yes,
47 years of those.
you're 3 years behind me. But so our parents, like most of them would, for the most part, change their own oil. They would change,
Yeah.
all their own stuff. Well, then it got to when they started opening these places, like, all right, well, cool. I can get this done in 10, 20 minutes versus, all day jacking up the car, all that stuff on my day off. Well, like when I was, a teenager, young 20s or whatever, I'd go to a lube shop or something and it would be car guys in there working.
Oh,
Like
yeah.
everybody outside had a custom vehicle, whether it be an old Nova or a little mini truck or something. Everybody was a car guy, and I think that era of car industry people for that aspect has gone. Now it's just somebody trying to make a dollar and could care less about it.
You're exactly right. And I see a lot of times when shops that I go to that I may have never been to, I look in the parking lot. I want to see what's being driven, right?
Yeah.
And so that I can try to work and build a relationship with some of those folks, right? Or have some kind of commonality. Got the opportunity to go to some stores in the Nashville market, and there was a bagged Silverado laying in the parking lot, and I'm like, so whose Silverado is that out there? And one of the guys is like, that's Jose's over here. I'm like, hey, I'm going straight to him. I'm like, what's up, man? How you doing? Tell me more about it, and just trying to build those relationships. And I can usually find pretty common ground easily to build relationships with folks like that. And
well, somebody like that has that vehicle would be like me or you doing it. Like they would take more pride in what they're doing because that's a passion for them. Like I had to take my sister-in-law's car to have oil change one day. Just didn't have time. I come back and they didn't put the splash pans back underneath it and missing bolts. And I'm like, can y'all not do what you need to do? But I guess, like I said, they're there just for the paycheck, not because they like the automotive world.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah. Last night, actually, I was doing a training last night at a customer, and one of the techs was putting wheels back on a customer's car. It's closing of the business day, and he was trying to hurry up and get this car done. And he found a bolt on the laying on the rack, and there was another car that had previously been on that rack, and he goes, "This is a caliper bolt." And he got kind of worried because the last technician that was using that bay had done a brake job on a customer's car. And then he goes over and he's finding the guy. He's like, "Man, hey, did you forget to put a caliper bolt back in this car?" And he's like, "No, man, we got new calipers for the car and they come with new bolts." He's like, "Oh, good." You had me worried there, He's like, "We're gonna have to call that customer." He was freaking out, that a caliper bolt had gotten left out. And I was glad of that, honestly, because most of the time guys would have just never even thought about it, just tossed the bolt in the garbage and said, "Oh, I never seen that," or "I'll put it back in there," or whatever,
And I think on the maintenance side of the automotive world, a lot of that has gone from being mechanics to technicians where you plug it in, it tells you what's wrong, you know what to change. Where my uncle was a mechanic his whole life, and he carried a stethoscope around all the time. We'll put the stethoscope to the engine and could tell you what was wrong with it. And I'm like, why you carry a stethoscope? And I remember as a kid, he'd be like, "I'm a gynecologist on the weekends." I had no clue what that meant, as a kid.
Yeah, absolutely.
He would put that stethoscope and he would know what was wrong with it. Where now I'd say 95% of mechanics in the world couldn't do that.
Exactly. Yeah. That's why, the majority of the folks that I deal with are, in my opinion, a tech, right? They're a technician. And some of those guys are obviously not in it for the long haul, right? But yeah, those guys that have been there, been in shops for a number of years, they get the name mechanic from me, right? Guys that I've seen that work at stores for 30 plus years, those guys are a mechanic. They're doing real diagnosis work,
Well, with you being in the lubricant side of the industry, and I've talked about on some of the other podcasts, what is your thoughts on this whole electric deal? I know that they're not forcing it on everybody like they were, but with this growth of electric, how does that impact a lubricant company like you work for?
That's a great question. And honestly, you would think that it would impact us more severely than it does, but all electric cars require some form of lubricant, right? The gearboxes that are operating, that basically the differential or the transmission, the drive wheels, those call for a lubricant, a gearbox oil. And Valvoline actually is a manufacturer of a lot of the coolant that is used in the battery cells to keep the battery cells cool. So we have accounts with with big electric companies, and working with them to keep their battery cells cool. We actually make a coolant for wind turbines as well.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So if you think about it in that aspect, that side of the electric, getting the electricity right to recharge the car, the wind turbines themselves, they use lubricants from Valvoline as well.
I didn't think about that, transferring over to other industries other than the automotive world.
Absolutely. And then Valvoline has been exploring into some options with the possibility of even taking on battery replacement and or battery reconditioning services. So I know that we've been working on that a little bit, but as far as a full-on plan for that, I don't know.
Now with you being a car guy, what is your thought on the electric wave, I guess you'd say, of vehicles coming in? Have you messed with any of them?
I've got the opportunity to be in a few of them, and I really am surprised at how quick they can get up and go, right? But I do think that taking an old car and retrofitting it to an electric looks really cool.
Yeah.
And to be honest with you, one of our guys in our research and development laboratory is a big race car guy, right? Loves racing, loves dirt track racing. And he has recently took the battery cells from one electric vehicle and the wheel motors from Tesla and put in a dirt late model.
Wow.
To run a dirt late model. And it looks pretty cool, and it'll get up and move pretty quickly.
I've said many a times, until you can pull into a gas station / charging station, plug it in, go to the bathroom, get a bag of chips or something, come back out, unplug it and go. I don't see that technology being a thing. I'm not sitting somewhere for an hour waiting on my car to charge.
Absolutely not. My time is too valuable to be doing that. And fortunately for me, the company that actually owns Valvoline is probably one of the world's largest producers of petroleum. So, if not the largest producer of petroleum. And so I don't feel like that they will let the electric part take over completely. I think that they'll help mitigate that to some aspects.
It's always cool to get other views and inputs on that with you being with that. Like I said, I didn't even think about the differential stuff needing fluids. I just thinking the whole thing being electric, but I guess there is.
Yeah, I mean, you think about wheel bearings need grease as well. Think all of that type stuff, whether it be ball joints, tie rod ends, those all get greased. So that's a lubricant, right? So, but yeah, I mean, there are definitely those items on a vehicle that do need some kind of care, right?
Now, when the oil prices and gas prices and all that stuff goes up, does it affect your guys', I guess, bottom line? Does your prices fluctuate, being it's still a petroleum product?
Honestly, it does in some aspects, right? Obviously we got to prepare for, future. So we try to, companies like us will buy, based on, and we've lost in the past. We couldn't get a price increase to the field quick enough because the price of petroleum went up too quickly, right? And so you do take a loss on some of that, but sometimes you take a gain, right? So it's kind of the back and forth. It's just like being in the gas station business, right? You think as an operator of a gas station, prices go up, they think that they're making a bunch of money, but when the price goes back down, they may have paid more for that fuel that's in their tank, right?
And the gas stations are pennies on the dollar.
Absolutely.
For everything. With me delivering to gas stations forever for Pepsi, you'd watch, they would send the manager or somebody out driving around, seeing what everybody else is charging, then come back and adjust their prices based on everybody around them's charging. Like, why should it not be a set of what you paid for,
right?
For what you're making? But if they're making 2 and 3 cents a gallon, but if you're dealing thousands of gallons a month, like, you're still making, like, their money's made on the inside sales, not on gas.
Exactly. They're relying on you, their Pepsi salesman, to bring them some 20-ounce bottles they can mark up and sell for $2.59 a piece, and that they've got
which still
78 cents a piece in.
When I started Pepsi, our vending machine in the break room was 35 cents for a 20 ounce.
Oh yeah,
that's what it cost us, was 35 cents.
Right.
So it's like you go to a ball game or something, like $5, and I'm like, how about I give you 35 cents for it? I'll give you 40 and make it even.
Yeah, I mean, the cup costs you 7 cents, and then the syrup costs you what, 3.5 cents, and then the carbonate of the water, right? So
yeah.
So exactly.
So how did you? I know you said you're still at the Valvoline deal, but how did you come about? I know we talked about it at Mini Nats, but explain how you come about to start your new company. Tell us what the company is and how you started it.
Okay. Well, the new company is Blue Collar Detail Supplies. and it's kind of named after my truck. I named the truck Blue Collar, but nevertheless, the reason I kind of got into that is obviously having a passion for car shows and going to shows and keeping my vehicle clean, and had the opportunity to work with the products at Eagle One and Carbright over the years. I just developed a passion for keeping my vehicle clean, right? And a couple
You
years
don't,
ago,
you don't detail or anything. You
no,
just your own stuff,
just my own stuff.
which is
Yeah,
how I started.
exactly. Now, if somebody's car, I'll kind of be like my dad in some aspects, like he was. If someone comes over and their car sits in the driveway for too long, it's probably going to get washed if I'm if I'm piddling around in the garage or something like that, right? But
Yeah.
and that's the way my dad was. If some of a family member come over and they were spending some time with my mom and they were there for more than a couple hours, he was out there washing their car, getting it cleaned up for them. But
What's like I always kept all my stuff spotless, and I actually had a neighbor's like, man, why don't you just do that? Like, why don't you detail? I'm like, I don't want mom's minivan. I don't want all
right,
this kid crumbs and all. Like, I don't want that. And I
exactly,
started doing a couple here and there, and I was like, well, this ain't bad because like I knew the process that was needed
yeah,
because I had. You go to a show, it has to be spotless. You go to SEMA, it definitely has to be spotless.
yeah,
Like you're wiping the frame down. Like even if you don't see it, you're still doing that.
exactly, yeah.
So it's like I might as well do that. But you didn't do any detailing stuff when you decided to do a detail supply business.
Exactly. No, I didn't. A couple years ago, I actually ran into a discount store, and they were clearancing out some products that some microfiber products, and they were really cheap. And I looked them up. I was like, man, these products are $15 and $20 a package, and I'm able to pick them up for $4 and $5 a package. I think I can make some money on this. I think I can make a few bucks by selling them for double up. If I sold a
Yeah.
$5 or bought a $5 package and sold it for 10 and it retailed for 15, somebody still got a $5 break, right? And so I kind of dip my toes in the water, if you would,
Yeah.
to test that with those products, and quickly realized that guys love being able to buy products at a show that and buy them reasonable. Me being the person that I am, trying to build a relationship with people quickly and things of that nature, and I hope that people think that I'm a likable guy. So
Yeah.
occasionally he's all right, right? Um, so I try to build those relationships and sell some products, and I basically sweet talk my wife, which is a very very understanding woman. I will just tell you that she's to allow me to buy an enclosed trailer, set up an LLC, and sign on with some companies.
I'm looking for a shadow or she ain't like,
No, she's not here, but hopefully she'll get the opportunity to watch this and be a little bit embarrassed, maybe, I don't know, but no, in all
she's not
honesty,
giving you cue cards in the background. Tell
no, definitely not, no. So, um, but she allowed me to, like I say, to purchase an enclosed trailer, to set up an LLC, and get on with some suppliers. A little bit of backstory on the suppliers that I'm currently using. A couple of companies are the marketing directors or marketing folks for some of these companies are former Carbright and Eagle One guys that I had developed a relationship with over the years.
yeah.
And when about 5 or 6 years ago, I got the opportunity to test some Sonax products. Sonax is a German-based company, and their distributor in the U.S. actually, I think, is partly owned by AutoGeek.net as well. If not, it's all part of that same investment group.
Same umbrella. Yeah.
Yeah. And so one of the guys that I'd known, he reached out to me. He's like, "Hey man, I went to work for Sonax. I'm no longer with Eagle One and Carbright. Would you like to try some of our stuff?" And I was like, "Shoot, yeah, love to try some of it." So he had me invited me up to Indianapolis where their office was, and basically just handed me a trunk load of products. And he's like, "Here, take this back and try it." And most of the products still had German labels on them, so it was stuff he hadn't even got the opportunity to try, which
Yeah.
was kind of ironic. And so I had to basically do Google Translate to try to figure out what the products was and how to use them and whatnot. And I quickly fell in love with a lot of their products that they offer. And then last year, actually, back in August, another former coworker, he works for 3D car care products.
Yeah.
And he reached out to me and said, "Hey, have you ever heard of 3D?" And I said, "No, sir, I hadn't." And he goes on to say, "Well, I'm working for them now." And I said, "Well, that's kind of funny." I said, "You know, I just recently started doing this, selling detailing products on the side, and I'm, going to create a business at the beginning of next year for just to start for next year." And he said, "Oh man, can I call you?" And I was like, because this was all through text message at first. And I said, "Sure." And he calls me, and we're talking about it. And he's like, "Let me call you right back." He calls me back about an hour later. He's like, "I just talked to the CEO, and he wants to set you up with a tent. He wants to get you all this and get you going and get you set up selling our products." And I said, "Hold on, pump the brakes just a little bit." And he goes, "What?" I said, "I've not tried anything that you guys have to offer. I'm never going to sell something to anybody that I haven't gotten the opportunity to test and validate, right?
Yeah.
Because I want to be truthful to any of my customers on any product that I sell, whether it's, that I have used it, I can verify that how it performs, And he goes, "Fair enough." He said, "Give me a week and I'll call you with and I'll have some products." Called me a week later, 25 different products he brought to me in not in just sample sizes, in like full size bottles.
Yeah.
And the whole gamut. It was like, "Here, try all these. Let me know what you think." And for the majority of their products, I did enjoy. And so I'm primarily selling Sonax and 3D is my two main chemical lines. And then I'm also teamed up with Zephyr polishes for wheel polish, as well as the
Which
rag.
is probably the best wheel aluminum polish company, because that's where they got their feet wet, was in the polishing. I know they have other products, but
Sure.
their wheel polish is hands down, in my opinion, probably the top out there.
Yeah, absolutely. And they just recently launched a new sprayable that I picked up, and I'm pretty impressed with it as well. Makes it a little bit easier when you got those little water spots or something like that from going to a show and having to wash your car and forget to get a spot or whatever. You
Well, I
can
know,
quickly get.
I'm a Adams polishes guy, but
Sure.
I've nothing wrong with their polish and stuff. But like once I've used the Zephyrs, and like when I'd go to SEMA, I'd have a gold standard polish and would polish my wheels before SEMA, even though they were brand new, I'd still have them polished out. And I'd watch them use that product, and actually got linked up with we went to dinner one night at SEMA with the owner and marketing director and their whole crew from Zephyrs. And they welcomed us in, and hey, what do you need? Take this, try that. And it's like, that's why I feel like, even though I'm a diehard Adams polishes guy, just because that's just where I'm comfortable with,
Sure.
that polishing compound and their lineup is probably, like I said, in my opinion, the best on the market.
And they were, like you say, super easy to deal with, right? I reached out to a handful of different companies on wheel polish so that I could try to get some different products in to test, obviously, and see what kind of price breaks I could get as a small time wholesale retailer, basically. And they were more than welcome to quickly respond to me via email. And some other companies, unfortunately, I'm still waiting on a response, if that tells you anything. So
That's
that
the
tells
ones
you
you're like, how are you still in business? If you can't reply to a message or an email or a call, how are you in business?
Absolutely, 100%. And that's exactly how I go to business today with Valvoline. Is I try to take care of my customers as quickly as possible. I want to get them the answer that they deserve as quickly as possible. Right? And so, and then not only Zephyrs as far as the chemical goes, I've also stepped into purchasing microfiber products from the Rag Company out of Boise,
Oh, yeah,
Idaho. I really enjoy their products. I like the fact
I
that
do too.
they have some good quality towels. And probably my number one towel to sell is a drying towel, especially as of this year with all the shows getting some form of rain somewhere sometime. Drying towels are very popular.
Well,
So.
if any of the listeners were at Battle in Bama, they were riding around on their scooters peddling drying towels as the rain stopped. So genius marketing idea.
Hey, it worked. I did very, very well at Battle in Bama, even though I didn't have a vendor spot. And just by carrying some towels on my back and riding up and down, especially Mini Truck Boulevard and even the rest of Pit Road.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that
That's
worked out well.
the one item as a detailer that I find fails quicker than anything. Like, because you use a drying aid, a detail spray or something when you're drying a vehicle, make sure everything's good. Well, then after so many uses and washes, even though I wash the stuff in, rags to riches. I only wash my car towels with car towels. Like, I'm not washing it with jeans and all that stuff. I'll pull the towel out, go to dry the roof of a car, and it won't dry. I guess it gets clogged up over time.
Yeah, I typically don't like to use a lot of drying aids as far as spray products when I'm using my drying towels, just for that fact. Because I mean, for me, most all of my vehicles have some form of hydrophobic polymer coating on them. I'm
If you're
not,
like me, I'm doing a customer's that's
yeah,
probably
sure,
never been waxed in 10 years,
yeah,
not coated, nothing. So I use that drying aid to help get the little crevices and all that
sure,
stuff done.
sure,
But
absolutely.
I have the biggest issue with drying towels.
Do you dry them on like really low temperature?
Medium or so. I dry all the towels on medium.
So I dry most of all of mine on low to no heat, and that seems to prolong the life of most of the towels. I had one of my customers, is actually a club member, sent me a message, man, I need some more of these red microfiber towels that you got. If you've got them, I'm like, yeah, I got them, and they weren't a drying towel. And I go over and I look at his towels. I was like, dude, these are scorched. He's like, what? I'm like, well, how are you using these? I mean, these got to be hurting the paint. And he's like, what do you mean? I'm like, look at the new one, look at the old one, and tell me that it isn't scorched. The fibers
Yeah.
are scorched because his wife
Crunchy.
didn't know. His wife had no clue. She's washing them just like she would, towels for bath towels, right? They separated them, wash them separately, but she's drying them on too high of a temperature, and obviously it's scorching the fibers.
I think that they just get clogged up with the drying aid stuff. Like, then they just don't want to absorb water anymore. That's my most replaced item is drying towels.
Gotcha. Well, that's something that maybe I should do some kind of testing with myself, just to see um, what I can get.
I think though, on an average week, if I'm home, which was with me traveling, building the Blazer and doing photos, like, I'm not detailing every day, but
Sure.
last month I was detailing 5 to 7 days a week, just trying to catch up before I go back out and work on the Blazer.
Yeah.
So I'm going through 5 to 10 drying towels a week. Of course, I'm washing every couple of days or so, but I'm using them on a daily basis. Like,
Yeah.
how many times do you wash your truck, your S10 compared to what I'm detailing?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Now I do have a tendency to not wash the drying towels as much if I can hang them up and let them air dry. Especially, I mean, it's a clean vehicle, right? I mean, it shouldn't be the towel shouldn't get dirty theoretically, right?
You always got that spot you missed.
True, yeah. And so I do have separate towels for the daily drivers, and then I've got
I do too.
towels for the S10, right? So but
I have color coded, like, even for the detail stuff, I have color coded Rag Company towels. I have one that I wipe the detail spray with. I have one that I wipe the haze off. I have a red one that's wheels only, touches nothing but wheels.
right.
And I never use those on any customer's vehicles.
Yeah.
They're just for whatever show vehicle is in rotation. Went from my Sierra to now it's the Tahoe. I'll probably just get new ones when it comes time for the Blazer.
Yeah, same kind of goes for me. I've got a set of the dedicated towels that I use on the S10, and they don't get used on anything else, right? I do have a set of towels that I use on my 63 as well, and then I've got the everyday towels for the daily drivers, as far as that goes. My wife has threatened me because I've got 2 or 3 totes of like used microfibers that she's like, what are you going to do with these? And I'm like, I don't know. Maybe I'll do like take them to a show and throw them out there, 10 for $1 or something like that, but, just to let somebody take, because somebody will use them, once they get so far gone, they become oil rags, and then they just get tossed in the garbage, right?
So, there was a kid across the street from me, not this summer, or I think it was this past summer. He was detailing. Like, you'd watch him come in, like, he's literally across and over one. So, I mean, I live in a neighborhood, so it's not like I'm, a mile away from him.
Sure, yeah.
And I'd watch him. He'd bring it in. I'd kind of, while I'm doing something, I'd kind of watch him out of the corner of my eye, and I'd see him struggling with something. And I'd go over and be like, hey, what are you using with this? Hey, what's this? Hey, use this towel for that. I'd bring him some of my older stuff like that.
Yeah.
And then his mom come over one day because he was 15 or whatever.
Sure.
His mom come over and said, hey, he really watches what you do. That was awesome. Come over, do that. And it's
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
maybe take those towels and you see a kid that's trying to start hey, I'm home from college, I'm trying to wash
Absolutely,
cars.
absolutely, and that's a great idea. Honestly, I've had at a couple of shows this season already some young kids come up and look at products and say that they are wanting to get into doing detailing work and stuff like that, and they may buy a pack of cheaper microfiber towels because obviously I'll sell some cheap microfiber towels because it's whatever's in there, somebody's budget, right?
Yeah.
You and I know that the Rag Company microfiber towels are top quality, but the price is also there too.
What is it if it's 420 GSM or up? Like that's when it's a good. If they stick to my hands, they ain't touching them.
Right. So the lower the GSM, in my opinion, that is something that's not necessarily going to get used on my paint, right?
Yeah.
You're going to use that on to clean the dashboard, the door panels, the console, things like that. Use it for interior, use it for cleaning your under the hood plastics, things like that. Right. Me, I'm going to use a probably a 420, 450, 500 GSM microfiber to, apply a quick detailer, right, or something like that, and or stuff like that to the paint surface itself, and then use some. I'm going to use a smaller GSM towel to polish wheels with.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
You want some aggressiveness there to use that grit of the polish to bite into the aluminum, right?
And then something softer to pull it off.
Exactly.
Well, like if I have someone comes to and like, hey, I want a paint correction. If they're spending on the paint correction, I'm like, all right, before I do this, how do you wash it? How do you dry it? What are you using? Like I've sent bottles of detail spray and stuff home with people like, hey, when you dry it, use this. It helps. It'll, kind of boost the coating. It'll kind of, help take care of that. But if someone's like, oh, I drive through, the drive-through car wash. I got one of those unlimited passes and I'm, at least 2 or 3 times a week. And I'm like, okay, I'll take your money. I'll spend the time polishing it. But in 2 weeks, you're going to be like, well, these scratches are back.
Exactly.
Like, so that's your money to do what you want to do. But, you decide.
Exactly. For me, like I've got a company car, right? Valvoline provides me with a company car. They don't pay me to wash my own company car. So, but they will pay for one of those types of services. So, I get the minimum service that I can.
Yeah.
And it doesn't, at the end of that line, they got those drums of microfibers to dry your vehicle off.
Yeah.
And I'd tell them, hey, don't turn that on. I don't want that on, because I don't even want to see all these scratches all over my company car. But, it is what it is. But like I said, if they would pay me to wash my own car, then it would probably look a lot better than it actually does.
I had a neighbor bring me I want to say it was a Subaru Ascent, a black one.
Okay.
And he's like, hey, I don't like these scratches and stuff right now. I've only had the car for 4 or 5 months. He's like, can I bring it by and let you see what you can do? And I'm like, yeah. As soon as he pulls up and I see the holograms as he pull up, and I'm like, he runs this thing through the car wash all the time. And I'm like, okay, I can get this out. It's a new enough car. The paint's not dead. I can get it out. And I was like, so how do you wash it? And he goes, well, he said, I go through Zips as the local. I don't know if you have Zips there. We have Zips here. And I was like, what are you doing? He's like, I'll run through at least 2 or 3 times a week and get it washed. And I'm like, immediately I'm cringing. I'm like, okay, well, this is not a show car. This is whatever.
Yeah.
And he's like, well, he said, also, he's like, if it gets caught in the rain, he goes, when I get home, I'll dry it. I was like, excuse me? And I was like, what do you mean? He goes, well, I have like a towel I use, I'll wash it. And he said, but I have a towel. I was like, what kind of towel? I was like, oh, it's a bath towel. I was like, what do you mean you dry it if it gets rained on? He goes, if I leave the car wash and it gets rained on, he goes, I dry it off with a towel when I get home. I was like, so you dry the dirt off with it? And he's like, no, it's just water. And I had to have that conversation with that customer and come to find out my paint correction price wasn't what he needed but he had never knew.
Sure, exactly.
In his mind, it's washed, then it's clean. It's just water off the road.
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely. That, and that's I see that in both sides of the businesses that I'm in. In the lubricant business as well as in this business selling detailing products. Customers, they only know what they know, right? And so just like everybody thinks they know to change oil in their car, right? Yeah. Change oil. But they don't ever think about changing the brake fluid, changing the coolant, changing the transmission fluid until they have a failure, right?
Yeah.
Same thing goes with washing their car, right? Like, just like you said there, they don't realize the damage that is being done because they think that they are truly caring for their vehicle. And so it is different, right? My wife and I got her BMW X3 last year, and we took off, went to Florida for vacation. We get down there and bugs all over,
Oh yeah.
and I'm trying to find a coin op car wash in Panama City, and I couldn't find one anywhere. And I'm like, crap, man, what am I going to do? And so we ended up finding a touchless wash.
All that does is move the dirt around.
Yeah, I mean, at least it sprayed it off. I did bring some products with me. I had some bug remover, and so I was able to spray all that stuff down. At least
Before you went through, yeah.
Pull in and let it at least wash the bugs off of it and get me squared away. And she's like, I can't believe you're taking my car through a car. I said, it's touchless. It'll fine. You're fine.
Well, I have a customer that about every 2 or 3 months he brings me a new vehicle. How he does it, I don't know. It's he brings me a Range Rover, a Porsche, not cheap vehicles. So right. Every couple months he brings one. It's like, hey, I'm picking this vehicle up Friday. Can you do it this weekend? I need it coated. So he'll bring it to me, and then I'm like, all right, so I guess I'll see you in about a month. He's like, no, I'm keeping this one. And he's like, hey, man, I sold that Range Rover. I've got me this new Porsche Macan. I need it coated. It's brand new. Well, he picked up, I guess his last year, it was probably the third Range Rover he had because they're still hard to get, but he's tied in with the dealership. So when they have one that's not pre-sold, they're like, hey, do you want it? And he gets it. Had 12 miles on it. And I swear it's ran through the car wash 20 times.
Really?
Like he got it, and he's like, he brings it to the house, and it's that dark, pretty metallic blue. It's $100-something thousand Range Rover, and I'm like, did they wash this thing? And he goes, yeah. He goes, I saw them washing one. He goes, but I didn't think it was mine. He's at a Range Rover dealership.
Yeah.
He's like, I saw the guy with the brush. He's like, I guarantee you that water's not been changed in that bucket in a month.
Absolutely.
And he goes, can you get these scratches out? And I said, yeah. And he goes, charge me what it is. Let me know when it's done, and I'll pay you. And the funny part is he traded it 3 weeks later because he was mad that it had scratches when he bought it. I was like, I got them out, but it's like even dealerships don't care. They want to. I mean, if you're selling $100-something thousand vehicle, you don't wash it with a brush.
No, and back in the day when I worked for a dealership, running a parts department for a dealership, the detail shop there, I guarantee you that bucket of water is probably the same bucket. They just throw a little more soap in it and top it off with water every day. They probably still do that to this day, because that's what the detail shop always did. And it's funny that you should say that, but they do cut and buff all their cars before they put them on the lot. Obviously, the cleanup boys that would get a new car ready for a customer to pick up, first thing they do, pull it into that bag, get that brush out, and start scrubbing away, right?
I've got a few regulars that come in that that buy every year or so, and they'll get with me before and be like, hey, I'm getting this vehicle. What I need to do is like, don't buy that coating they're trying to force you to buy because it's garbage. I was like, it'll last a month. I was like, and do not let them wash it. I've had vehicles brought to me that still had plastic because they're like, I have a guy, don't touch it. If you touch it, I'm not buying it. So I pull the plastic. I do all that stuff. And like, that's the customers I like because then they know what, if they're going to be spending $700-800 a month, they know what they're getting into.
Yeah, exactly. Hell, I bought a pickup truck one time that was a trade-in that the dealership hadn't even had an opportunity to send it through to get detailed at all. It literally was still dirty. The floors were dirty. The truck was pretty dirty. And they said, oh, you can bring it back and get it clean. We'll detail it for you. I said, no, thank you. I'll do it myself. I got this. It's no problem.
So when did you know that doing the detail supply was going to be something that would work? What was your trigger moment?
I think last year when I I got the opportunity to set up at a couple of shows last year and saw some really good success with some products that people are like, started calling me. Hey, are you going to come to this show? Are you going to come to that show? And hey, can I get something sent to me? And I've even had some wives reach out to me and say, hey, can I get a couple of those drying towels mailed to me for my husband for Christmas? Absolutely. And so, I think that's what kind of solidified it for me is going to a couple of shows and actually having some decent success selling products that I had bought mostly on clearance, right? And turned around and just marked up a little bit to make a little bit of money. I wasn't trying to make a killing or a living on it by any means, but I wanted to see if I could make a little bit of money on it. And so far it has proved successful, and I hope that I continue to have some success with it. I've got several other shows lined up for the rest of the show season this year to try to go to. So
I guess a lot of us, we get to a show and be like, oh crap, I didn't bring tire dressing, or oh, I didn't,
exactly.
my detail spray bottle was full.
Yep, exactly. At Battle in Bama, for instance, a young kid literally had just walked out on pit road to go check on my truck on Friday morning. He catches me, goes, "Hey," he said, "Do you have any, or do you have a booth set up?" And I said, "No, I don't have a booth. I got everything in the trailer, though. The trailer's here on property." And he's like, "Well, I forgot my detail spray, man." He said, "That Sonax that you sold me, the Ultra Slick Ceramic, was great, and I need another bottle of it. I left my bottle in Texas." I'm like, so he came all the way from Texas to Mini Nats, purchased a product from me at Mini Nats, loved it so much and forgot it, and was glad that I was there to be able to offer him another bottle. And so I basically played Uber for the majority of the day on Friday with my scooter, going from back and forth from the trailer, grabbing products and delivering them to people, that I built a relationship with.
I guess since Craig won't let nobody have no damn golf carts down there.
Hey, my wife hands down told me that was the best $350 that I ever spent was buying those scooters. So, to be able to cruise around that show, it's just a lot of foot traffic, and you'll see me again in Nashville for Triple Crown. I'll be riding my scooter.
You got a booth at Triple Crown, or
I'm not going to have a booth at Triple Crown, no.
Okay.
But I'm taking the truck again. I just had too much fun at that show.
That show's killer. I'm as long as I'm not working on the Blazer that week, I'll be at Triple Crown. That's my plan to be there.
Hands down, a very, very enjoyable show. And
when you've got multiple $1 million+ vehicles in one location, like, it's crazy.
Absolutely. It was I just had the best time there.
So we've mentioned your truck. So tell us about your truck. You said you bought it new, which obviously it's not still stock.
No, it's definitely not stock. When it was stock, it was I purchased it, like I say, new in '98. It's a '98 S10. It originally was a 2.2 4-cylinder with a 5-speed manual. It was literally the epitome of a blue collar work truck. It was vinyl floors, bench seat. It had an AM radio in it. That's all it had, because
is there still AM radio stations anymore?
Yeah, there are. I mean, but I specifically asked for. I didn't want a radio when I went to buy the truck new, because I knew I would put a stereo system in it.
Yeah.
Being the teenager that I was, 19 years old, buying a pickup truck, right? Being that teenager, I knew I was going to put a stereo in it, and so the dealership's like, "Listen." The dealer or the salesman at the dealership, he's like, "Man, if we just get you one with a basic radio in it, then it'll have all the wiring and harness in it. Then you can swap out your radio. It'll be a lot easier. Otherwise, if we order it with the radio delete, it won't have the speakers. It won't have any of that stuff in there." I'm like, "Okay, good call." So we got it as basic, plain Jane as we could.
What color was it?
It was originally all pewter.
Okay.
It was the first year for pewter, and I didn't want white, black, or red, because those were the 3 colors that you primarily seen.
Everybody had them, yeah.
The pewter color was brand new for '98, and I said, I like that color. So,
did you know you were going to modify it? I mean, other than the stereo and the tent and stuff, or was that just something you bought to drive?
It was something that I bought to drive. It was definitely my daily driver. After moving to Jacksonville, Florida, within the first 10 months of ownership, it was out of factory warranty. I had put 36,000 miles on it within the first 10 months of owning it. And so, because Jacksonville is a pretty large city, as most know, and my customers in that city were spread all out throughout the county and the city, and so it took quite a bit of driving every day to go see various customers and stuff like that. So I was selling vinyl siding and patio screen enclosures and working with a couple of different home builders, and so for new homes, and they had several subdivisions across the county that I would go and visit and measure sites and measure homes and get things ready for a crew to come in and do their work on.
When did you decide that, okay, I need to take this truck to the next level, or did it gradually happen?
Well, it happened around the 2006 time frame. My wife and I got married back in 2003 and still had the truck then, obviously. So I was working as a parts department manager for Hyundai dealer, and wanting to do more to the truck. We had bought another vehicle for ourselves, and I was driving a delivery truck home every night. And so basically, I had a company vehicle, so the truck wasn't a primary driver, a daily driver anymore. So got the opportunity to put air ride suspension on it, and while I had it tore apart, the guy that helped me work on the truck, he owns a shop here locally in town that does touch up and blend work for dealerships. That's
Is
how I
that
got
who bagged? Same guy that bagged it?
No, he along with myself and another couple guys, we all pitched in together and done it at his shop.
Okay.
In his shop, because he had just bought this new building. He had put a lift in it, put a paint booth in it, and he's like, "Hey man, I got this lift. It's going to be easier to put air ride on your truck over there."
Had you ever fooled with air ride before, or was that your first time dabbling in it?
It was my first time doing anything on my own for my own vehicles. I've helped buddies of mine, and I knew the ins and outs of the functionality of it, and helping do some install work and stuff like that with some other local guys in the area. But it was first time for my own vehicle, and those guys helped me get it all set up. And while we had it tore apart, Mark was like, "Hey, since I got this paint booth and we got the bed took off of it, let's just go ahead and paint this truck too." And I'm like, "Man, I don't think I can afford that." And because I at the time had a stereo system that was all fiberglass, and it was painted two-tone sunset orange and pewter, because I had Alpha Sonic subs at the time, and they were orange, kind of matching, tying everything together, right? And so the dash bezel had been painted and stuff like that. And Mark's like, "Well, look," he's like, "I'll just pay me the material cost. Just whatever the material cost, just pay for that. You're going to help me sand it down, get it prepped and ready to go anyway, and we'll paint it here since I got the paint booth." I was like, "Okay." So we literally painted the truck two-tone. We left the pewter alone. The pewter was still the factory paint, and painted from just above the door handle up in sunset orange it was from an '05 Corvette. I wanted to keep the whole color GM family, right? Yeah. And of course, several people tried to talk me into shaving the door handles or shaving the tailgate handle, and I'm like, no. I see too many guys having problems with poppers and stuff like that.
Been there, done that.
And plus, I said, for me, the whole build of the truck originally was, could General Motors have built it this way, right? Could they have done the modifications that I done? And so that's why I wanted to leave the handles. I left the wipers and things like that, right, at the time. And we traveled around with that for a while, still running on some 15x8s, some old Eagle alloys back in that time frame. And then I got the opportunity to.
You said that was in 06?
06, 07 time frame, right in that kind of like late 06.
People had 15s in 06?
Well, I did.
17s in 97. Come on, man.
No, I know. I mean, but I did. It was one of those things you have to take a step back sometimes, and so I had to sacrifice and sell some wheels and go backwards for a little while. But I'm glad that I did, because I mean, I'm still got the truck, right?
Yeah.
And so then the truck I got my first set of custom, or I say bigger wheels, right? I bought a set of Boss chrome 18s and 20s from a guy out of Ohio, and ran those for a while, and got to come to your show, I think, with those wheels and tires on the truck, actually, or maybe a different set of centerline billet wheels.
Scraping the Smokies.
Yep.
What year was that?
Gosh, I don't recall, but I still have the trophy. It's actually, I think it's hanging on the wall over there. But,
it was 06, it was at the mall, and then
no, this was when you were at the fairgrounds. It was when you were at the fairgrounds. Okay. is when I come there.
I think 08, I might have skipped 08 or 09 because of the economy stuff. Nobody wanted to sponsor anything. No one,
Gotcha. Yeah. So yeah, and I don't exactly remember if I had those Boss wheels or if I had a set of centerline billets on it at that time, but I've always been the guy that likes to have the staggered pattern.
Yeah.
I love the 1820. I love that offset fitment. That's just the hot rod guy in me, I guess you could say, is why I've done that. But then over the course of the years, obviously running the truck like that for a while, I knew I wanted to upgrade the engine. And about 4 years ago, I decided to join the LS family and upgrade from a 2.2 to a 5.3. And it's been fun. It's definitely pretty rowdy. Then in purchasing another truck that is hiding in the backyard, or out back behind the house here, which is probably near and dear to your heart because it's a 77 K5.
Okay.
It's sitting there patiently waiting its turn, but I knew that the paint job was getting a little tired on the S10, and I wanted to redo that before I started diving into the K5, because if I started on the K5, then I wouldn't stop.
All your money will go to the K5. Trust me.
Exactly.
Ask me how I know.
So yeah, exactly. So I decided just back in 2023 that we were ready to repaint the truck and upgrade the interior, and so was very fortunate that Eric Felber from he lives up in the Gettysburg, Pennsylvania area, Baltimore area. He's a fellow club member. Obviously, I'm in negative
I
camber.
think anybody that's been around any camber or any mini truck shows knows Eric
Yeah,
to some degree.
exactly.
So
So he's just a fantastic human being in general, and he graciously took on the project of changing the color of my truck, obviously, and helping me update it to what I feel like is something that's going to help stand this,
and what's
stay
the
relevant.
color now?
Right. I'm sorry.
What's the color now?
The color is actually Apex Blue Pearl from the new Acuras.
Okay. So you didn't stay in the GM family
No,
for this.
no, I didn't stay in the GM family. They didn't have a blue that I was really passionate about. So
That
and
Acura blue is a killer color though.
it is. It's one of those colors that if you're sitting at a traffic light and you see this sea of SUV moms and you see that one MDX or one RDX that's sitting at the traffic light that's that color, it's
Yeah.
the one that sticks. It's the only vehicle that sticks
Sure.
out to you. And so, I was glad that Eric kind of leaned up on me to go with that color, because I had in mind a totally different color. It was a GM color that I had in mind.
Was it a blue?
No, actually, I was actually very tempted to use it's a shadow gray metallic from the new Corvette, and he's like, Dave, I know what you're wanting with the truck, and you're not going to get it with this color. And I said, okay, what do you mean by that? He said, well, I know you want the color to be noticed. He said, you want people to notice the change to this truck, and a darker color like that is just going to get lost in this in the sea of vehicles at a show, whether it be
I
mini
agree.
mats or what have you. And he was absolutely right, 100%. And so, in teaming up with him, he's also got some great guys up there as well that I, got to sing some praises to as well. Matt Reynolds of Charm City Upholstery done all my interior and completely changed the look of the truck. I mean, it was all charcoal gray originally internally, and now it's all a distressed brown color with some Alcantara and some woven leather inserts.
I like the grays and the blacks and stuff, but there's something about something in the Brown family, not tan, but
Sure,
there's something
exactly.
about
Yeah.
the Brown family that completely changes. That's why my Ram was like it was. That's why the Blazers go in that color.
Yeah.
There's just something classy about a brown color on the interior.
Absolutely, absolutely, and that was one of the first things that I decided when we were deciding to do the interior. I had originally just was going to keep it the gray and just redo the seat and just have the seat redone, let Matt do his spin on it, and my wife's like, no, if you're going to do the interior, we're going to do all the interior. You're going to change it all. And so there again, she puts her 2 cents in when it's necessary, and it's usually for the best, right?
And once again, I just want to make sure she don't have cue cards
She
making
doesn't
you
have any cue cards.
gunpoint.
No, no, she doesn't have any cue cards.
When I ordered cranberry, my original want was the blue, but I wanted that brown interior. Well, you couldn't order the bright blue like Benji Harless had. You
Mhm.
couldn't order that bright blue with the brown interior.
Right.
It just wasn't an option.
Yeah.
But the interior was my number one color because that made all the difference to me. Is why I went with the cranberry color.
Yeah.
So
yeah, and I like that color as well. I actually had looked at some of those trucks for to purchase as a hauler, right?
Yeah.
In the heavy duty truck market, and looked at that color because I really like that color on those Dodge pickup trucks. So, in going a little further, Eric, of course, the way he is, he's always thinking, and he's like, man, he's like, I know you got these KMC billet wheels on here. They're one-off billet wheel for an S10. They didn't make this lug pattern for S10s except for you. And I was like, yeah. He's like, but people are going to recognize the truck by those wheels. And I'm like, well, you're probably right. He's like, let me get you hooked up with Brad Fanshaw at bond speed, and let's see if we can't do a wheel for you. And so we teamed up with him, and he made me a set of wheels that are a one-off wheel, and got a steering wheel to match, obviously, and then it all tied it in together. But I think the most notable portion of the truck that gets more attention than anything is actually the bed floor.
Yeah.
You know, I've always been the kind of guy that I never wanted to put bed liner in a show truck, because it's just that, it's a show truck. It's not.
You're not hauling chairs and coolers and
exactly. Yeah, I'm not hauling parts around the country in it like I used to years ago, right? And so I wanted to do something a little bit different. I've always liked a painted bed floor, and so Eric painted it, and I told him my idea that I wanted to put the boat decking in the bed floor, and he couldn't understand exactly what I was wanting, the vision that I had, and so I teamed up with a company fairly local to me, within about 45 minutes an hour from here, down close to Lake Cumberland, that specializes in marine mat, gator step, and sea deck, different boat decking materials. And they gave me some colors, and I tried to match them as close to my interior as I possibly could. And then I provided templates of the way things are, and they sent me the dry fits, and they put it in the truck for me, installed it in there. And that seems to get the most attention. People come over, and you wouldn't believe how many people reach over and go, what is that? They're trying to touch it. They're trying to figure it out. I've had people ask me if it was leather. I've had people ask me if it was wood. A lot of people just don't understand that it's just boat. It's just foam. It's just hard.
And that boat decking stuff has become pretty big in the custom truck world for beds, and like the lifted guys, they'll run it on their amp steps.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, 100%. And that's where I had seen it was used on some of those steps, and I was like, well, if it's durable enough for that and durable enough for people on a boat, then for me, it's not going to haul anything in the bed anyway. It'll give me what I'm wanting. I wanted it to kind of have that almost wood bed floor look, but still be, if I needed to put something back there, I could put something back there and it not be on the paint itself. So
when did you debut the truck?
I debuted it at Mini Nats in 2024. Okay. So I kept it hidden. Eric took the truck in August of 23. I picked it up the weekend of my birthday in December of 23, finished. Interior done, paint, full blown, took apart and put back together, ready to go. Picked it up in December, brought it home, and kept it off social media, kept it off. It was a challenge for me to do that too.
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
And because I wanted to debut it. I didn't want anybody to see it until I got it to Mini Nats. Hell, I was worried to death taking it to get the boat decking done, because there's a lot of mini truck guys that live in the Somerset area. I was praying that everybody be at work and they wouldn't be out seeing me at 8:30 or 9 o'clock in the morning coming to this place to get my truck done. And then likewise catch me going back, home in the afternoon when I picked it back up, because I'm running on an open trailer at that time. And so just because I didn't want the truck seen and to be noticed, right? And until Mini Nats, right? So
well, I used to especially my SEMA stuff, I'd be like, I'm not going to debut it until it's en route to SEMA. Like, I'd have the photos. I didn't want to debut it until it was en route, because I know someone would see it and take a picture of it on the trailer or whatever.
Absolutely.
But like now, like this year, it's like I'm working with so many like high-end companies. I'm going to be pushing as much as I can.
Absolutely.
Granted, it won't be done till right before SEMA, but I feel now it's like to hide it until SEMA. It's with me promoting as much of the build. And it's hard, like you said, to like sit on it, be like, I have these pictures. I can't show anybody. And you text to somebody, do not show anybody this photo.
Yeah. Even all my buddies here locally and club members locally, that they're like, man, when are you going to show us the truck? I'm not going to show you the truck. And they're what I mean.
You wouldn't even show your local friends?
So I made the club guys, I made them come to my house to look at the truck in person. And that was before I had the bed floor done and before they even knew anything about the wheels, because I had ordered the wheels before I ever got the truck finished. And I never told them about the wheels until they got to see them at Mini Nats. They got to see the wheels.
You're a stronger man than I am.
It was a challenge. I'll be honest. It was a big challenge, but yeah. And one of my buddies, he had his suspicions that I was buying wheels because I had new run flat tires hiding in the garage, over here. And he's like, "What's those for?" I said, "Oh, those are for the car, for the '63." And he's like, "Oh, okay." So because he's a tire guy, and he's sells tires or buys and sells tires wholesale. And so he's like, "Where'd you get those at?" Because I went around him to buy them, so it's one of those kinds of deals, just so that he didn't know. I was trying to keep it all under wraps as much as possible. But, now having the truck out for a good solid year and a half now, I guess you could say, it's been fun, man. I absolutely love the changes that I've gotten done to the truck, and I'm, still very happy with it. So.
Now, how is it to try to mix setting up the booth with your truck parked at it? Like, is it hard to dual work that?
It is a little challenging, right? And like there again, I got a very understanding wife, and at Mini Nats, she spent a lot of time wiping it down for me. She's like, "Hey,
my wife wipe down my wheels, much less a
so
paint.
no, she'll say, "Hey, tell me what product you want me to use, tell me what towel," and she'll do it, and she's good at it. So, but generally speaking, if I wipe it down once or whatever, before I get open for business, I guess you could say, sometimes if it depends on, how busy things are, I can usually go through and wipe the dust off of it again or something.
I keep talking about wanting to do a podcast booth to do the shows and stuff. And it's like, I think that'd be cool to show up in the Blazer next year to have a booth and stuff. But then I'm like, shit, can I even fit a tent in the Blazer? Because I'm driving the Blazer. I'm not towing it. I'm driving it.
Yeah.
But it's like, how do I do content and all that and run a booth? And I mean, my wife can't go to many shows with me. Her work is just way too demanding. So
yeah. And for me, I mean, it's been a challenge. I've gotten the opportunity to go to a couple shows without the wife, and not on purpose. I mean, it's just because the way she works and things like that. But it is a little bit of a challenge to set it all up by yourself, right? But I do kind of have a system. I know how I want my truck strapped down in the trailer, and so I purposely put a winch in the trailer so that if she wasn't there, I could winch the truck in myself and get it set to where I want it, and then putting products in the trailer and stuff like that. But luckily, I can grab a couple extra hands from either club members or other show goers to help me put the tent up or something like that.
And you've mentioned the club members a few times. So you're an active member at Negative Camber. How long have you been in Camber?
Since 2015.
Okay, with this truck.
With this truck, I got in with this truck. Absolutely, yes. In 2015, actually at old Laid Out the Park show in Morristown, Tennessee, is where I got logoed at.
I missed that show.
Yeah, I always had a really good time at that show.
You didn't know if it was going to be 110 or snowing.
Very true, and I've been to both. I've been to it when it happened both ways.
Yeah,
so, absolutely. But yeah, it was. I'm thankful that I get to travel the country like I do, so because I've got the opportunity to meet a lot of club members. And get to meet them outside of the car show environment.
Sure, it's like, hey, I'm in such and such city tonight. Exactly. Who wants to grab dinner?
Exactly. Yep. And it's been great. I got the opportunity to build so many relationships with these guys. I can pick up the phone, call any of them anytime and say, hey, I'll be in the area. Oh yeah, well, come on over. You want to stay at the house or something like that. And it's like, obviously when the company's paying for the hotel, they want a record of where you're at. So it's a little harder to stay at somebody's house, but when you're traveling for work, but
I'd rather stay at a hotel anyway.
So, I don't want to be an inconvenience in some aspects, but some folks, I mean, if it's just going for a weekend, hell, I love to go hang out, stay at Eric's, go to Eric's in Pennsylvania and stay with him for a weekend. We have a great time together, and he's got a couple extra rooms at his house, so it's comfortable, it's nice, and same thing with even just going to across the state line to Tennessee and go hang out with John Yoakum or something like that for a weekend. Him and Heather.
Do you really want to hang out with Yoakum though? Well, it's like when I go out, work on the Blazer, I'll stay at Adam's house, and I just stay in the room and we joke because when I built this house, my spare room was technically my daughter's room, and we joke and say it's Adam's room because he's stayed in it more than she has.
Oh, wow.
Because he's actually coming out for Showdown in the Valley and staying here. But I just crashed at his house out there. So do you have any other plans? Because a vehicle's not ever done. Any other plans with it, or just enjoy it as it is?
For now, I mean, yeah, you're right. Nothing is ever finished, right? as far as vehicles go. I mean, hell, I've constantly changed this truck over the last 20 something years now,
Yeah.
and so it's not ever going to be finished, I would say, but for now, it's on pause, I would say. I
Does that
do
mean you're
want
starting on the Blazer?
actually, I'm contemplating letting the Blazer go. And just because I really don't have the time with my workload to actually build the Blazer like I want to build, it
Yeah.
may be one of those things that I look to buy something that's a lot further along that I can kind of manipulate and make my own. But I want to focus a little bit more on. I've got a '63 Biscayne.
Okay.
The car that I mentioned earlier about my dad. He uh, I bought that car back from a guy that had purchased it from my dad, but after my dad passed away.
Okay. That's
And
cool.
so, and then I put air ride suspension on it, put a crate 350 in it, but it still has the original interior from 1963 in it. And I really would love to have the car up at Matt Reynolds and let Matt do his spin on an interior for that car.
Nice.
Because it needs to be updated, right? It's old, it's tired, it's dry rotten, and just you can massage on it as much as you want with some conditioners and things like that, but you're never gonna.
Yeah.
Once it gets to that point, it's past that point. So.
And to work on a vehicle that has sentimental value, that has ties to the family, it would mean more than that Blazer that's sitting outside.
Exactly, yeah. Even though it kind of was the purpose of buying the Blazer was I originally wanted the '78 is what I wanted, and because that was the year I was born, and just to kind of tie into that
I
together.
tried to find a 75, the same reason.
But run up on a deal on this '77, and
You got the gold trim on yours?
it is a Cheyenne truck, so I don't have any trim.
All the molding and stuff on it.
It doesn't on the exterior. There's no moldings at all.
Really?
Yep.
Because I know that they call it gold, it's yellow, but the gold trim was a 1 year only 77. I wanted to keep mine and redo it, but because Mark A had it for sale before they went out of business. But with the tan, keeping the tan color, that tan and yellow was just way too close of a color. So, but everybody's like, oh, that's a 1 year only. That stuff's worth money. And
yeah, well, this doesn't have the trim on it at all. The truck's it's been rattle can primer black, for whatever. But it is a Cheyenne factory AC, factory.
That's what mine is.
Factory console, bucket seat truck, the plaid buckets, and that's kind of what I wanted to keep was that plaid, or keep a plaid look, right? Maybe
mine were. How do I put that? Mine were duct tape buckets. There's like 4 rolls on each seat, I think.
Oh, okay, nice, yeah.
But
this is not a nice truck by any means. It's definitely got its wear and tear, that's for sure. But it's relatively rust. It came out of Texas. It was so it's pretty decent shape for what it is. I think it'd be a good bones for somebody, but as far as for me, I wanted to do a whole chassis. I wanted to do the LT1 and
so it's you need to buy mine in a couple of years is what you're getting at.
Well, maybe you might be right, just because I know you won't keep it for long. So,
damn, why does everybody want to wreck me like that?
No, it's not a bad thing. I just know that you're going to be looking for the next thing to build and take to SEMA. So
I have everybody's like, oh, have you got it sold yet? I'm like, it ain't even done. They're like, that's not what I asked. This one though, I do plan to keep longer because one of my best friends is the one building it. It's kind of just one of those being hands-on with it. Yeah. I mean, all my other stuff, I still was hands-on to some degree, but the interior and the suspension, I wasn't there where I've been there for 90% of what's being done to it. So it's I kind of want to keep this for a minute. But so what's your plans with the detail supply company? I don't see you going anywhere with the Valvoline side of it, but where do you see yourself in 5 years with your detail supply company?
So hopefully, if things continue to progress and be as good as it has been thus far, it may open up the door for me to maybe exit Valvoline, and do that kind of thing full time. I mean, I rather enjoy it. So, but at the moment, it's still going to be a part-time gig for me where I would just set up at car shows that I plan on attending anyway. And hopefully we can continue to grow that business, and I can continue to grow partnerships and relationships with whether it be customers and or suppliers for that matter. And maybe I can be one of those those key people to a supplier to be a tester for a lot of new product development.
Well, it's like the stuff that you gave me at Mini Nats to test out. It's why I, sent you that feedback. I used it for a couple small things here or there to see what was what, and see how it worked, and gave you that raw feedback that
Absolutely.
in turn you can pass along to.
And I have, and that's been great. That's exactly what we want, in that, and I love the fact that when somebody comes up to me, like case in point at Mini Nats, a guy come to me, had a black truck, was like, "Hey man, you trying to get this dust off? I want to use something that I can get this dust off there, and it's not going to streak the black paint, what have you, in the
California
sunlight."
car duster, 100% California car duster.
Well, I'm not a big fan, but nevertheless, I see those and I almost start cringing when I see people use them.
California car scratcher is what I call them.
Exactly.
I've given Dave Schulman so much hell. I'm like, dude, you just feel like scratching your stuff? Like, what are we doing here?
Yeah, exactly. I kind of did that with John Yoakum. He I think he still carries one too, or used to carry one.
Well, John is kind of old, so he is that demographic.
But that kid, or I say kid, he's probably a lot younger than I am. Had a black truck and bought some product from me, and the next day he literally come over and said and thanked me, and he said, "Man," he said, "I can't wait to see another show," and he said, "I'll definitely buy more of this product." He said, "I was really impressed with it because it didn't streak like he had been used to using other quick detail products on dark finishes and seeing the streaks." Right.
A lot of that's just it requires a 2-towel method, which is
Absolutely.
why. Like I have an orange, like we discussed earlier, I have an orange towel I spray and wipe, and then I have a white towel that I buff the haze off with.
Yeah, absolutely. In case in point, 3D honestly has a product that's called Ceramic Detailer. My dumbass didn't read the directions. I just think, oh, detailer, you just spray it on, wipe it off, right? And I sprayed it on the truck, and I wipe it off, and it's just smearing and streaking, and I'm like, what the heck? And so I get another towel, and I buff it off, and then I read the directions. It says to use 2 towels. So, and I'm like,
guys,
okay.
we don't read directions.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, hey, read the directions. And if you can, then you'll be better off. So, and actually Andy Sergenis is texting me for some reason. So, do you know Andy? Speaking of no shiny paint, or people that probably don't really wash their truck very often, that would be him. I'm not calling him out, but I'm calling him out.
So do you have a separate like social media presence for the company?
I do currently only on Facebook, and it is Blue Collar Detail Supplies LLC. Okay. And that's where I try to, when I'm going to a show, getting ready to set up for one or what have you, I try to make a post and let people know, hey, I'll be at this show if you need anything or what have you. We're in the process. My wife and I are looking through companies to possibly offer some e-commerce stuff, and currently I don't take credit cards. Right now it's cash or a Cash App or PayPal or Venmo, right? And so at shows that's worked out really well for me thus far. But
everybody has Venmo or Cash App or something.
For the most part, most people do. And I've only lost maybe 2 or 3 sales due to not having a credit card reader. But I think that maybe would make life a little bit easier for some people. And then I've had several requests for shipping of product, and until I can get in with a company that can offer me some shipping discounts.
Oh yeah.
I don't see it being profitable to me, number one, and it would be rather expensive to my customer, when they could buy some of these products from Amazon or something like that and get it, next day for free or something.
Shipping chemicals like that in bottles, I didn't realize how expensive that was. Adams had sent me something. I had a foam cannon fail, and they sent me a new one, but they sent me the one for the garden hose. I'm like, this is wrong. And I was like, what are you going to do? And I was like, oh, just keep it, give it to a friend, whatever. And I was like, well, what do you think about doing like a giveaway deal? And they're like, oh, if you're going to do that, we'll send you another kit or whatever. So they sent me like a whole bunch of stuff. I did the giveaway deal, threw in a podcast T-shirt, some stickers, that kind of stuff. I went to ship it. I'm like, what do you mean this is $45 to ship this? I'm like, it's a box that's this big. How is it $45 to ship? Yeah. I'm like, I lost money by doing that, but it was like, it's still at the end of the day brought recognition to the brand and to Adams, which helps. So.
And for me, at Mini Nats, I raffled off a cooler, right?
Yeah.
I sold raffle tickets for a cooler that was an air conditioning cooler and got some large presents out of that. I raffled off a detailing cart at relaxing in the park in St. Louis, and then at Battle and Bama, I raffled off an entire bucket of products. And it had nearly $300 worth of products in it, and people were eating it up to buy a $5 raffle ticket. And
Yeah,
that helps bring some awareness to my brand. And
for sure.
especially on a bucket like that, they get to try the products, and if they like it, they'll come back to me and buy more of those products.
Well, same thing. I put my, some hats and stuff in the deal at Mini Nats
Yeah,
last year, which
yep,
is how you have the hat.
yep,
So same
absolutely.
brand recognition. You sometimes you gotta spin to make that happen. So
Exactly, exactly. Talking to actually Craig Riley one time, he said, "Man, scared money don't make money." He's
mhm.
like, "You got to take the risk," and that was when I was first contemplating doing this, opening up this business. And he's like, "Man," he's like, "unless you take the step, you're never going to do it." So it's just one of those things. So I decided to take the step and go for it. And like I say, everybody would love to make more money, right? Obviously,
Yeah.
but if I can help offset the cost of going to a car show by selling these products, and building some relationships with new people, new making new friends, stuff like that, that to me what is worth more than anything.
Well, I always ask people that started their own business like that to give advice for. I always say the younger kids, but half the time it's people our age that are doing it.
Sure.
Uh, you started a side business to make a little extra money and to have fun doing it. What one piece of advice would you give to that next person that's trying to create their own brand?
I would say look for a niche or a need, right?
Yeah,
Um, for me, I saw that there wasn't a lot of demand for or a lot of these products at car shows, right?
for sure.
And we all have gone into where, oh man, hey, you got some extra detail spray? I run out, or I've used all I had, or
All my
whatever the
towels
case may
got
be.
wet when
Yeah,
it rained.
exactly. And they didn't have anybody there to buy from. There's plenty of t-shirt vendors. Not saying anything bad about t-shirt vendors.
I totally understand.
A lot of those guys are my friends, and I admire them for coming and setting up at a show and selling t-shirts all the time. But at the same time, I'm not going to go buy a t-shirt to dry my truck off.
Yeah.
Right. I would hope that nobody else would either, to be quite honest with you. Now that I'm there selling drying towels, I hope they would come and buy them from me, instead. I look for that niche or that need. What do you see? What do you see that's missing in your industry? Maybe something that you're passionate about. I mean, because clearly I'm pretty passionate about selling these products, and have been for a number of years.
Well, no, I ran out of detail spray at SEMA one year. I was parked back against where they do the Optima Streetcar Challenge. So every morning I'd show up and my whole truck was black from the rubber.
Yeah.
Like 2 days in, I ran out of detail spray, and I'm like, I don't know what to do. And I walked over to the Adams booth. Luckily, Adams Polishes had a big booth at SEMA, and I've become friends with some of these guys. I'm like, hey, man, I ran out of detail spray. He walks in trailer and grabs me another bottle. He's like, here, man, take it. So,
Yeah, and I had a very similar situation back in 16. Evelyn allowed several of us to build a couple of trucks for the Baja 1000 that we raced in the Baja 1000, and we got the opportunity to take one of the two trucks that we built, and we put it in our booth at Valvoline's booth at the SEMA show. And I spent 10 days in Las Vegas and then another 2.5 weeks in Mexico running the truck. Well, when we get there, the truck, we had it shipped, and it was shipped on an open carrier because it's a big, huge Baja truck, right?
yeah.
And it was absolutely filthy. It was all wrapped in just matte vinyl wrap and stickers and stuff like that anyway. But it was just dusty, dirty from the ride out to from Kentucky to Las Vegas. And so, where I built relationships with various people in the industry, a buddy of mine at the time was working for McGuire's, and I went and seen him at the McGuire's booth, or at their outdoor trailer, and I was like, "Hey, man, this truck is filthy. We don't have anything. Rather than me having to go find a parts house or something and buy some stuff, do you have anything you could help me out with?" And he gave me a handful of towels, gave me detail spray. He said, what are you cleaning? And I told him, and he gave me the various cleaners to clean it up with and everything. Just
Yeah.
Here, take care of it, And so very, very similar situation, right? But I'm glad that I've made those relationships with people all across this industry, whether it be that or what have you.
So tell people how they find you online. You've already mentioned the detail supply business on Facebook, but how do people find you online?
So for me personally, I'm on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, even for that matter. And is Dave Weakley is obviously my name, and that's why you find me on Facebook usually. I do have a couple of Instagram handles. I got NC Dave KY, and then I've got Blue Collar S10 because I created a hidden Instagram to funnel all those photographs of the build of the truck originally into that Instagram, and I kept it private
Sneaky.
until I launched the truck, and then when I launched the truck, I let it go, and it started inviting people to see that page. So,
and I always ask, OnlyFans?
no, I don't do any OnlyFans. It would probably be Only Beards or something. But
I know Daryl Poe wanted to do a feet finders or something.
Yeah. Now, I mean, don't tempt me if I can make some extra money. Don't tempt me.
I mean, the economy's tough right now. We got to do what we got to do.
We got trucks we want to build, So
I keep saying, I'm trying to drum up some business. I'm gonna get me some hoochie daddy shorts and a crop top and start washing vehicles, in the driveway like that, and whatever it does, whether people pay me to put longer, clothes on or whatever it takes, man.
Oh, wow. I'm not going to go that far, Brandon. I'm sorry. But nevertheless, I mean, I'm on all those social platforms. And
cool. Well, I appreciate you coming on, man. We've bounced back. We've both been busy the last, couple of weeks or so. So absolutely. Appreciate you coming on and really telling your story and how you're involved with the automotive world. So good chatting with you, man.
Absolutely. Pleasure. Thank you very much.